guessing y'all won't print these out anymore. I'm guessing y'all won't print these out anymore since we have this stuff now. Mm-hmm. You can print it. Oh, you got clear ones. Yes, I could tell. Cause that's how I was when I first got retainers also.
Certificate?
It doesn't sound bad. Just cause I know you, and that doesn't sound bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I was thinking about getting it.
It's fine. I'm sorry. I'm so used to sitting to the side of Robert.
I did a few years ago, and I was like, I'd like to get it when my mother paid for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because I just didn't realize that it was only covered for kids. I just think not for dental, but they're like, it's cosmetic when you're over, what, 21 or something like that? You know already?
Did I want full credit? Hey, Justin, right? Justin, John, nice to meet you. It's an iPad, right?
Say I'm not, dude. Leave me alone.
What's today? 6/9. Name of
Oh, Divine Street? Passing.
gonna frame it. No, I'm not gonna frame it. Hey,
So how long have you? Hello, how are you doing?
it's just I can't.
I did get my
Purely
my lovely tour.
shows me what they want me to show you.
Check off.
Got it.
Me too.
Does it
Have you
move?
seen sign and platform for the new bar at the attic? Go through there.
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
Like to tell you.
You know where Sharky's is? Above Sharky's.
Okay.
Yeah. Like they basically.
So I just have to remember whether I'm on or off. Got it.
Out of the building and then put some wood letters on top of that.
They recycle. That's great.
Yeah. It's all
Okay.
Oops, my mic's on.
Hi, Latoya. Good, and you?
I can hear that. Yeah, I bet not. Okay. I've never.
I think it works, yeah.
So we're okay there. Thanks. Sir, how are you?
Pretty cool.
I'm the casual one today.
We're probably tied.
You put a coat on, but you can't see the pants.
That's why I do it.
Ben Hoover, you know him well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
he-
well, but I know.
He almost bought the house here, or the house you tore down. Did you know that?
No.
They were looking at it seriously enough to like ask me to come look at it with them
Before then? Before that.
years ago.
Oh.
I mean, it's been years ago now, but you've had it for a year.
Two.
Two. Okay. Two? Really?
Yeah, two. Come August.
So it looks like
Anyway, let's turn.
4 o'clock.
He'll do like shorts below the desk.
Yeah, all those dudes got shit.
Shorts and flip flops. Looks good.
We only have one on the regular agenda. Yep. Amy? Do you have minutes from the last meeting too? All set. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4 o'clock, and welcome to the June 9th City of Columbia Design Development Review Commission meeting. The commission is made up of volunteers with expertise or interest in historic preservation and design. We generally meet on the second Thursday of the month to review cases. The commission is supported by the city's urban planning and historic preservation staff who are here today. Please let them know if you have any questions, taking care not to impede the proceedings. The meeting generally proceeds with staff calling the case and describing it. The applicant may also come forward to add to the basic description or request if necessary. If so, please try to keep your presentation to less than 10 minutes. The commissioners will then have the opportunity to ask questions. After this period, I will ask if there is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak for or against the proposal, and audience comments shall be kept to 2 minutes per person. If there is, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond, and this rebuttal shall be kept to 5 minutes. In most of the cases, we will make a decision tonight after all information has been presented. If your case is denied, or if you feel that your decision or that our decision was made in error, you and anyone with standing have the opportunity to appeal it within 30 days of the decision. All decisions of this commission are based on existing guidelines and ordinances. If you plan to speak about a specific project, you must have signed in, and the sign-in sheet is at the back of the room or at the podium. Please note that these meetings are streamed live, recorded, and broadcast, so please use discretion with any personal information you may choose to share in the course of these proceedings. And again, all motions and decisions are made while applying all of the facts to all of the guidelines. Are there parties here who will be speaking? And if so, please stand and raise your hands. Raise your right hand, please. Do you affirm to tell the truth in these proceedings? Thank you. Have a seat. Will you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Can y'all hear me? Mr. Bachnight?
Here.
Ms. Great?
Here.
Mr. Heiler? Mr. Cohn?
Present.
Mr. Powell? Mr. Wynn?
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you very much. Does the agenda still stand?
We've had a few changes since publication. Under the historic part of the regular agenda, 1634 Main Street, which is a request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill, has been deferred. 1328 Richland Street likewise has been deferred for consideration of the Bailey Bill. 1121 Daly Street. That has been deferred. And we have moved 1608 Main Street, which is a request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill for an individual landmark, up under the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. The consent agenda, the DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. Examples of such items include residential site improvements such as fences, minor exterior changes, or signage. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda at the beginning of the meeting, that item is removed from the consent agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Would you read the consent agenda, please?
The consent agenda includes 929 Gervais Street, which is a request for a preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill. This property falls within the West Gervais Street Historic Commercial District. 1931 Henderson Street, which is a request for exterior changes in the Landmark District. 1721 Gadsden Street, which is a recommendation for landmark status. This falls within the City Center Design Development District. 1703 Wayne Street, which is a request for certification for the Bailey Bill. This is an individual landmark which falls within the City Center Design Development District. And of course, 1608 Main Street, which is a request for certification for the Bailey Bill. This is an individual landmark in the City Center Design Development District.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to remove an item from the consent agenda? I'll ask now for a motion to accept the consent agenda as it stands.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the 5 items presented on the consent agenda as listed.
Thank you very much. Is there a second? Okay, we have a second. Any opposition? Any discussion? We'll call the roll, please, for a vote.
Mr. Bucknight?
Yes.
Ms. Great?
Yes.
Mr. Heiler? Mr. Cohn?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Wynn?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll now move forward with presentation of the regular agenda.
This is a building at 3101 Lindsay Street, which is a contributing building in the Earlwood Protection Area A. It is a single-family, minimal traditional style home. On the front plane of the roof, and the second is a side addition on the right side of the building. Staff has been working with the applicant, who has been gracious enough to make some changes to their designs per staff's recommendations, changing from a front gable addition to a dormer, a shed roof dormer addition. However, we still have some concerns about both of the additions as proposed. According to the guidelines, additions should not detract from or obstruct important architectural features of the building. They should use materials and detailing compatible with the original structure. They should limit the size and scale of the addition so it's clearly subordinate, and they should, for dormer additions, they should be subordinate to the overall roof mass and in scale with those that may have been used originally in the neighborhood. This is on a corner lot, so it's fairly visible from most of the sides. On this side of the building, on the right side as you see it, there's currently a deck which is over the top of a basement foundation. That basement foundation is flush with the facade of the building that it meets. And so that is the location of the proposed addition, utilizing the existing basement foundation. And this is just a photograph of the rear of the house. These are some examples in the neighborhood. The addition is going to be flush with the side of the building, which is typically not what we propose. We usually encourage people to push them back so that you can still read the front plane of the original building. So in order to help make the visual of this building compatible with others, we have recommended this corner post like you see in side porches that are found. These 2 examples are found in Earlwood. Part of the concern is that pushing back this side addition to where we would prefer is that it would leave open this basement wall that's acting as a retaining wall. And so you'd have a platform then in front of this side addition, because even though the wall would step back, that foundation would still exist because it is acting as retaining wall. The proposal did have a great deal of molding in this side gable front roof line here, which has been removed. I'm sorry, this is a poor staff version of adding siding to where that molding was proposed. And also you see the dormer addition on the front plane of the roof in this drawing. And then this is the real request would be for that whole front addition. This is looking at the right side, that side addition would be pulled up flush with the facade. And here you can see that the dormer, the shed roof dormer on top, is also coming out flush with its facade. This is the interior floor plan that is proposed, and the staircase that you see, you actually enter from the hallway there, not from the kitchen. So it goes up towards the front of the house. And in order to readjust this staircase, which currently is very steep. In order to get it to a code compliant staircase, they would need more headroom at the top of the stairs. And so that is the genesis for the front dormer addition that is seen here and the second floor plan that pushes out. So this was what was proposed. You can see the side addition has a great deal of molding just above the windows and along the eaves. That has been discussed, and they're willing to remove some of that molding. This is just a rear elevation. And then the left side elevation, again, you see that that shed roof dormer is pulled out all the way to the front plane of the wall that it goes on top of. And this is highly unusual for dormers in this area. They do not usually extend from the peak of the roof to the front elevation. This is the roof plan and the existing plan. In discussions with the owner, they have attempted to meet staff's concerns with this information here, which is a proposed hip roof for the side addition, and their sketches are seen here. These are some examples from what currently exists. This is under the deck, the front wall that's sort of a basement, but also a retaining wall. And this is the right side front corner. And here is the right side again. And part of the issue with this roof line is that you have a gable intersecting a projecting front gable, creating a kind of a level line towards the front, which is making it difficult to attach the side addition to in a logical way. These are the stairs as they currently exist, which you can see are quite steep, but they do have a turn at the top, and we may be recommending something like that to help reduce the length of the stairs to help minimize the size of that dormer if possible. So staff's recommendations are that we do find that some of the proposal meets the guidelines from Section 8, but we would only recommend approval if the dormer addition could be reduced in overall size in order to be subordinate and to mimic typical dormer patterns found in the district. That if the dormer cannot be reduced to a design compatible with the guidelines, then staff can work with the applicant on a rear dormer option, that the side addition have the roof pitch raised to at least 412 and altered to a hip roof, that the side addition gain a brick veneer column on the front right corner that is 2 bricks wide. That was to mimic the enclosed porches, and that all details would be deferred to staff. And the applicant is here if you wish to speak.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to present, please? Can you come up to the mic and let us hear what you have?
My name is Nathan Schott, and I'm the applicant, but I don't have anything more in addition to say than what Stacy had presented.
Okay. Is there anyone else here that would speak in favor of or in opposition to the?
I just want to see if the microphone's working.
Yes. Thank you.
They're gonna have to speak really close into it.
Okay, very good. And you've been sworn in, I believe, and let us know your name, please.
Yes, my name is Dan Ellswick.
Okay, Dan.
And I am here representing my own personal opinion, not my employer, who tells me that I'm supposed to say that. And unfortunately, not the Earlwood neighborhood, because we didn't have a chance to get together in time to discuss this, to present you with something formal from the neighborhood. But I would like to present my own opinions of this. The staff, I believe, has nailed the review exactly correctly. The design of the proposed dormer over the front door obscures and alters the character of the entrance door, which is a character-defining feature of the existing building, which would not meet that criteria or that guideline. In addition, it's a shed-shaped dormer rather than almost all of the ones in the neighborhood are gable-shaped. And the side addition, it also alters the character of the way that roof comes in. The main cross gable in the front appears from the street. And I think that these things can be addressed if there's a little bit more time for them to work out the design details. So that's why I'm suggesting I'm agreeing with the staff recommendation for additional time with the staff, because I think they've gotten pretty far along with those. And having details to the staff. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you. We appreciate you watching out for our neighborhood and having all of our projects follow the design guidelines.
Great. Would you like to, is there a rebuttal, sir, at all? No? Okay. Is there a discussion by the, or questions by the commissioners?
I have a question. The reason for the front dormer, is it purely to enlarge or extend the length of the stair?
Yes,
So the stair is being renovated?
the stair is being replaced completely.
Okay.
The stair is being replaced completely so that it will be the right tread and height, riser height to meet current code. But yeah, at the top, they need the space for the head height.
I guess what I'm really wondering is the suggestion to be able to reverse the stair so that it goes up towards a dormer in the rear, is that feasible based on where the basement access point is?
Right, so we didn't know at the time that the basement stairs are stacked under these stairs, but I think the basement stairs are also being reworked, but I don't know, and I would have to let the applicant speak to that. So he might have to.
They are being reworked.
The basement stairs are being reworked as well, so I think there are a few possibilities, and he seems to have been open to the idea of maybe turning the staircase at the top to gain, or to shorten the length of the overall stairs, potentially.
Is the reason the stair being reworked, usually we don't revise interior
I think
features.
the particular loan he's getting perhaps is requiring.
To meet current code, what is the trigger that requires that, or is it just simply that the stair is so steep that it's not passable? So this is,
I would imagine that the size of his renovation may be triggering something as far as 50% of the building's value or something like that. I would venture to guess, but I would have to let him.
so I'm sort of working my way through this. So by the enforcement of certain codes, you're being required to modify the stairs, and that modification to the stair is triggering a DDRC problem. And so all of this is a trickle down from the requirement that you meet the stair rise and run requirement of another jurisdiction within the city. Is that?
Yes, basically.
You'll have to lean into the mic,
sorry.
please. Thanks.
It has the, and this is actually a staff question, has the DDRC staff conferred with the other staff of the City of Columbia on the regulations and requirements? Who has jurisdiction? Is it the code that drives, or is the DDRC requirements that drive this?
Well, just because you need stairs to meet a certain code doesn't mean you cannot reconfigure the stairs to turn or move or be placed in another location in order to meet your regulations. But you only have purview on the outside, so you've got to determine whether or not what they're requesting meets it or does not. And then that will be up to them to try and work within their interior footprint. But I don't know if he's spoken with city folks or with the loan folks.
It's the loan folks.
The loan,
Okay.
It's through a HUD program, and so I have to bring the house up to code.
Gotcha.
And so with this, the stairs are a problem. And basically even reversing them, which I kind of showed them earlier, was that you basically end up with the same problem going in the other direction you hit.
didn't get to it. Oh, might be backward, sorry, hold on.
Floor plan.
What, this one?
Yeah, that one. Because basically up at the top where the suite is, it runs still into the roof there as well.
Is that one on?
It sounds from your lack of strong response that you're comfortable with the staff recommendations at this current point. So before we assume that,
Work with them just to be able to get, so if we can't do the dormer, I'm fine, as long as I can get, so I can actually get my stairs configured correctly, is basically what it comes down to.
Staff is recommending a smaller dormer would perhaps be acceptable if they can work it out going the way they'd like to go, so. And I was hopeful y'all might have some suggestions too that might assist.
Could you go back to the ground floor plan?
You hold your mic up to your mouth, and Ryan, you'll have to speak into yours, please.
Okay.
This is the proposed plan. You enter the stairs from the hallway,
From the rear.
from the rear, yeah.
Right, currently, you enter them at the front of the house.
No.
Is that, no? You,
Goes down to the basement.
okay, okay, thank you.
So if you were to reverse that, if you were to reverse that and enter the stairs from the front of the house and land at the rear of the house, would that eliminate some of the concerns of the dormer?
If you go back to the upstairs, my concern is the space. There's only, it looks like to be able to go right and left.
So that's why we didn't mention it here, but perhaps at the top, if it were reversed, to then make a landing to turn for the last few stairs, potentially, that would have to be worked out with the ceiling height below, but if it's basement stairs below, then that's potentially doable.
There's already a landing kind of currently when you go to the top of the stairs.
Or that solution may work in the direction they want to go, since that will be inside a roof gable.
So your dormer as drawn is 8'8". I mean, with half of that being stairwell, I would think it could get very, very tight up there if you were to narrow it in size.
In fact,
Well, it's not then width that we are recommending, more so the depth,
Gotcha.
because it comes out.
Question too, because when he redrew them, he has it as 7 feet there, but on the external showing 12.
So that's a good point.
I don't want to distract, but if you transform that into a gable dormer, you're also going to have problems with the door because the ceiling height is not going to be tall enough for the door swing to open. So the reason it's a shed dormer is to get enough ceiling height all the way across the length of that door.
Yeah. So he just mentioned that it was 7 foot in the floor plan, but that the exterior plan is listing it at 12, so perhaps it was not drawn correctly on the plans. I don't know which one is incorrect, unfortunately. So he just mentioned it was 12 feet, actually. Where do you see 12 feet on this?
Isn't that 12 right there?
I'm sorry, no, that's the pitch, 212.
Okay.
Yeah. So it may be correct, it may be drawn correct.
And would you go back to the side elevation?
The, which side?
Okay, so it's basically coming out to the entire, to the front facade of the house, basically in plane with the chimney.
The dormer is, yes.
And staff's concern is that it's coming out too far.
Correct, because it would then encompass this gable over the door. Let me get back to a photograph, maybe. This feature, the dormer would come out flush with that, so from the side here, it would come out and
Got it, yeah.
kind of straddle that gable, basically.
Any other questions or comments?
So as y'all have worked through this with him, have y'all found any solutions that seem to make sense? Because I would be concerned that if you shorten that by, 2 foot, you don't have enough landing space at the top of the stairs. I mean, is there a better solution that you guys see?
Well, the solution that we had proposed was turning the stairs completely, but then that, as he mentioned, goes into a narrow hallway, but then the answer to that may be then turning it again toward the top with a small landing. But if you're going to turn it with the landing, that may work just as well with the direction it's already headed, so that you may have to widen the dormer a little, but shorten the length of it so that the landing at the top comes up the
Yeah,
last
you've got
few
a
steps.
chimney to contend with there too.
But if it's shorter, it won't be near it won't be that close to the chimney. I mean, visually, obviously, it will interrupt some.
If we make a motion that basically follows the staff guidelines, it sort of puts things back in your court to meet those guidelines or come back to us again to go over this again. So I guess what we're trying to get to is a point where we can give enough guidance that this is resolved after tonight or close enough. And so far, I haven't heard anything that I can say, oh, we'll just do that.
So, let me ask a couple questions if you could. So, this is a city loan program?
It's not through the city loan, it's called a 203K mortgage.
Okay.
And so it's allowing me to do the rehabilitation and just.
So it's a construction loan?
Yeah, it's construction on top of the mortgage.
And do you currently own the house?
No, I do not currently.
When are you scheduled to close?
I'm sorry, yes, he's aging.
This all kind of hinges on this, because I have to have these finalized before I can go through and close on the actual mortgage, so I'm kind of like a catch-22 right now.
I'm sorry, I incorrectly put him as the owner.
What's that?
I incorrectly put him as the owner.
Just so I understand correctly, is the shed dormer itself is not an issue, it's the plane it extends to?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, that's my interpretation of the guidelines.
cool.
Y'all are welcome to have your own.
Would a different, so the facade of the house is currently brick, correct?
Correct.
If there were to be a differing material used on the face of the shed, whether it be hardy or some type of shingle, would that give enough differentiator, even though it's the same plane? To keep some appeal there?
It is siding.
Okay.
Siding is proposed. But I'll have to let you determine if that meets what you're interpreting.
Gentlemen, are you prepared to provide us with a motion?
Or we're wide open for
Sorry.
more ideas.
Oh, boy. Okay.
I guess let me walk through the recommendations of staff and
Okay.
see where we are and make sure this is all correct.
Very good.
Staff's recommendations are to approve with significant limitations in that the dormer addition be reduced in overall size, which is what we've been discussing, and be subordinate to mimic similar dormers. That's probably the biggest challenge. And then the second line, if the dormer cannot be reduced in design or in scale, that potentially a rear dormer would be an option with the reversal of both basement and first floor stairs. So those two are in tandem. And then less significant, the side addition have a roof pitch of not less than 4 and 12 and altered to a hip. I don't see a reason not to recommend that. Is there any reason to discuss that? And then that a brick veneer element be added to that corner just simply to make it similar to other buildings. And and then the other details defer to staff, which is a typical comment we add. So most of these, it sounds like you're comfortable with working with staff to achieve. It's simply this dormer question and the stair question. So far, I don't think any of us have come up with a silver bullet to solve that, and so we're simply going to have to put it back on you to find that solution. Is that an acceptable?
So what if we did this, though? So would you go back to the floor plan one more time for the top floor? Because it may make sense, as you suggested earlier, just to widen the dormer, bring it back a foot, and have a right turn landing as you're coming up the dormer.
Instead of coming out the door
Yeah.
and then turning,
Yeah.
that would be.
Would you be
acceptable.
comfortable with that?
That would be acceptable to me.
Okay. If that's the case, I'll make a motion. Or,
Just a second. Since this has special conditions as to why the addition is flush with the facade, if you would not mind mentioning that in the approval for the side addition, that it has special conditions regarding its foundation issues with the basement or something to that regard, so that future additions are not flush. We do not want to encourage side additions to be flush with the facade, but this has an unusual foundation issue.
okay.
I'm sorry if that wasn't clear.
All right, so let me walk through
Yes, sir, please.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the certificate of design for 3101 Lindsay Street, subject to the following conditions. That the dormer on the front facade be pushed back to not be flush with the gable above the front door. Which really has no, I don't need any recommendations for the interior, correct? That's for you guys to work out. That the side addition have a pitch of 4/12 and altered to a hip roof, and that there are special circumstances due to the conditions of the basement retaining wall that allow the addition to be built flush to that wall. And all other, and that a brick veneer column be added to the front right corner that's 2 bricks wide, with all other details deferred to staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm going to have, as an addition to this motion, that these are guidelines from Section 8, so that it's delineated as such, please. Any further discussion?
On the rear, if for some reason it cannot be minimized, do we want to take that away or leave that in the motion just in case they need that?
Yeah, we'll amend the motion to include the ability to put it in the rear, should they not be able to work it out on the front.
Very good. Do we have a second now on this?
Let me second both amendments to the original motion.
Very good. All right. We are now at a point where we'll call the roll for a vote, please.
Mr. Bachnight?
Yes.
Ms. Gray? Mr. Hyler?
Yes.
Mr. Cohn?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
We have quorum. Sorry, we have a motion that passed.
We have a passing motion. Thank you very much, sir. Next, we will review, well, we have no other cases. We do have minutes from the May meeting. If everyone has read those, do we have a motion to accept those minutes? We have a motion?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, raise your hands. Okay. May minutes are approved. And is there a motion for adjournment? So moved. We have a motion. and a
Second.
Second. All those in favor, raise your hands. Very good. Meeting is adjourned. We thank you.